Welcome to the new episode of Tennis Bytes and a new build-up to the latest Grand Slam, which is starting on Monday. It's the Wimbledon. So excited we are. So Aadish, what you're up to these days?
The championships, Wimbledon.
Yeah, they would like it to be called by any other name, is it?
Yeah. So obviously Wimbledon, although it is one of the 4 Grand Slams of the year, I'm pretty sure everybody around the world knows that it is the most prestigious and it is the tournament that most people look forward to. Even when you ask a small kid, a 5-6-year-old kid, what is your dream? I don't think there is anybody who is 5, 6, 7 years old who will say that I just want to win one Grand Slam or I want to play one Grand Slam. It is always, with reference to Wimbledon. I want to win the Wimbledon or I want to play at the Wimbledon. So I think, it's pretty evident that this is it.
Right. So as we build up, what are you up to these days? What's happening?
Well, just having some fun. The rains are screwing with some of my tennis. As I'm pretty sure it is also going to screw with some of the plays at Wimbledon. Every year we see this happening, that Wimbledon, we have to push the play ahead because of the rains. Sometimes we even need to get that extra day. On Monday, a lot of finals have been played. Men's singles finals have been played on Monday because of the rain issues. And Wimbledon being Wimbledon, they are so strict about their tradition that they don't budge about moving the tournament away from July.
Yeah, and surprisingly, a lot of people really said that French Open did not have any rains this year.
Yeah, it was quite surprising because French Open doesn't even have roofs. I think even for Court Philippe Chatrier, they don't have the closed thing. So although Wimbledon does. So let's see, even if the rain plays a spoil sport, I don't think any of the big matches are going to be affected.
Yeah, even my tennis has been affected with rain. You know what? An academy has come up in the neighborhood, and the coach there is from Serbia, and he has played with Novak. So I'm just searching him. With Novak winning the French Open and we building up to Wimbledon, I think it would be a fascinating discussion. I would love to really go and meet him, catch up with him, play with him.
You should show him that video of ours where we predicted Novak is going to win the French Open way before he was even into the later stages of the tournament. I think that will establish our credibility.
Right. So for today, I think I have a good list of points we are going to discuss on this podcast, this episode. But let's start with seedings. So I would just like to project it for our viewers. Right. So Alcaraz is the top seed. And any highlights from this particular release of seedings?
Well, the major highlight is that, of course, Alcaraz is the top seed despite not having won the Wimbledon. So that is quite strange. I don't think after 2004 this has happened. That a player who has never won the Wimbledon is the top seed. So this is a first in 20 years. Other than that, if you look at the seedings, it is quite evident that it's almost the French Open replica, except for Djokovic and Medvedev switching their positions. And I think that is just great because for anybody who is even slightly aware of how the seedings work, it means that Alcaraz and Novak can't meet before the final. So we did have a small seeding problem at the French Open where because Djokovic was seeded third, there was a potential semi-final between Alcaraz and Djokovic, and that is what exactly happened. So that is not going to happen here. Other than that, it's fairly simple. It's almost the same thing. We have Medvedev and Rudd at 3 and 4. Then we have the likes of Tsitsipas, Rune, rounding up the top 8. You have mentioned the top 10 seeds, but actually let me point out a small error. It has to be top 8 because 9 and 10 are equivalent to 11 to 16 when it comes to the draws.
Right. So this is just something that was released by Wimbledon. It has to be 8-16.
So, the only disappointing thing I feel here is that there is literally no grass specialist in the top 8 seats. So that is a bit of a disappointment for me. because of course we know that the grass season is very small, so it is difficult to gain that ranking in the span of 2 weeks and be at the top. But it just
Right.
shows us how tennis has evolved, and even the favorites are Djokovic and Alcaraz, who are both very far from being grass specialists as they can.
It hurts to see this, right? In a different sense, because we really would love to see serve and volley game being played at grass. This is slightly different to that.
Yeah, and the thing is that although we are well aware of how
Right.
the serve and volley game has kind of been phased out, but with Federer being the favorite at Wimbledon for say a good 16, 17 years till 2018-19. So Federer is a grass specialist, even though he's not a full-on serve volley guy. He's a grass specialist. He plays a modern-day serve volley game, if I may say so, where you approach the net after maybe one or two balls. Then he uses his slice very
Right.
effectively.
Right.
Then he's a good server. He has got great command at the net. So overall, he is a modern day grass specialist. So Federer was always there for 15, 16 years. And now we literally have nobody in the top 8.
I think there are, at a high level, if you want to talk about the key reasons why this has changed, probably three specific reasons come to mind. One is the change in infrastructure, meaning the grass has been slowed a little bit, and even not only grass, even the hard courts where they are trying to mix a little more sand. So overall, all the tournaments have kind of aimed to slow the game a little bit to favor maybe the baseline players. And at Wimbledon specifically, I think the balls have been made a little softer because it was an assumption, or even might be a very relevant assumption, that the game was getting quite boring with only 7. So the infra changes probably is the top of the list. Apart from that, players in terms of their fitness, as well as the racket technology and everything that comes with it, has changed tremendously. And I would like to highlight maybe the coaching part as well, where I think you will have some great insights.
Well, yeah, the coaching, but actually, when you talked about the game being boring, your first point, I remembered, I think it was now 30 years ago almost, there was a match between Sampras and Ivanisevic in the 94 or 95 Wimbledon. And it was a classic serve and volley game. The match finished in 3 hours. And we all know Sampras and Ivanisevic are both classic serve volleyers. And the feedback that the Wimbledon officials got was that it wasn't exactly entertaining. And I believe even Sampras mentioned that it is after this point that they started to comprehend how to make the sport more entertaining. And
Right.
About the coaching aspect, it was actually Sampras who initiated it and said that when you're trying to develop a player in the serve volley fashion, it takes a lot longer than developing a baseliner. And both the coaches and the students, the players, are sort of impatient about success. And that is why baseline is sort of a quick fix to that, because you get success a lot earlier as compared to a serve volley. Of course, both the points that you mentioned are also relevant to that, or maybe these 2 points have driven the coaches to come to this conclusion.
Yeah.
We can't be really sure about it, but yeah, this is also one aspect.
But you know what? Nobody has really come out and announced this, right? I haven't really imagined or seen anybody saying that, okay, we have made these changes. I think it's just a speculation. Maybe it's true, but nobody has really declared this, right? You know, somebody who's really come out and said this, that we have made these changes in terms of infra at least.
I think Sampras has come out and said it, that they are thinking about doing so or something like that. To that extent, I don't think he has actually confirmed anything. But I remember when we used to play in the circuit, in the national circuit, there were some rumors floating about, right, how that they are going to slow down the game a bit by by making the balls a bit softer as compared to what it used to be. And that rumor has been floating around since then. And now I think it has sort of just died down because we are so used to watching.
Everybody's accepted. But you know what? It has come, I feel it has come a full circle. Essentially now we are looking at tennis and probably looking at the same thing in every tournament. So on the reverse side, this might become boring eventually, and then everybody has to rethink it.
That is a very good point because someday then Australian Open and Wimbledon won't be really different. And and looking at no disrespect intended, but looking at Djokovic's success at the Wimbledon, we can kind of come to that conclusion that it is already happening.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Right. So let's move on. So now with all these things changed, who do you think are some of the players to watch out for?
Okay, the first name that comes to my mind is Ben Shelton. And I loved his game at the Australian Open. You even said that he has a very McEnroe-esque game. I still remember that. It's been almost 6 months now. But yeah, he plays a very McEnroe-esque game. Very effortless left-handed player. And the serve volley, the touch seems really nice. It will be really interesting to see him at the Wimbledon. Another player I'm really looking forward to is Struff, the guy who Alcaraz defeated at the Madrid Open, I believe, in the finals.
Yeah.
And he was playing a serve volley game at the Madrid Open against Alcaraz.
Yeah.
So I think he has a distinct advantage at Wimbledon if he continues to play in that match.
He also made it to the finals at Halle, Germany. So where he lost to Bublik, but again he was playing good serve and volley. So he is kind of in form, in touch.
Bublik is another player you can watch out for. Actually, he's not been talked about much, but he has won Halle, and we know that Halle was a Federer territory. So
that's a good connection. That's a good connection established. So, but cool. I also think Sasha's brother Misha. Obviously, there are no expectations for him to really win it or move to the later rounds. But overall, it seems very interesting to watch him because he plays a very typical serve and volley. At least in the first week, I think the serve volleyers should fancy themselves a little bit.
Yeah. I really, actually, when I watch Wimbledon, I really look forward to watching the first week because the grass is not worn out. So we get to see a proper grass court game. The ball slides. The game is a lot faster. And I'm very sorry to say this, but even visually it looks very nice that everything is green. Because by the time you reach the final, both the baselines are just worn out and it is just dry grass all the way there.
Right. Cool. So of course there are the usual suspects. I think we won't really need to talk about them. The seedings we have already touched upon. So do you think now that Djokovic is seed number 2 and you have already mentioned the seeding scenario, there is some kind of a bias against Djokovic in general?
Well, yeah, I do feel that there is some sort of bias. Not some sort of, a lot of bias, but strictly talking about from a Wimbledon perspective, because if we get into everything, then it will become a really long discussion. Yeah. But talking to you only from a Wimbledon perspective, Wimbledon traditionally is known to not follow the ranking system, the ATP ranking system, when it gives the seeding to the players. And this time, on the other hand, we have Carlos Alcaraz, who is number one, world number one and the top seed. Whereas Djokovic has been pushed to the second seed. Although Djokovic is a 7-time Wimbledon champion.
Yeah.
He is the defending champion 4 times in a row now. And so everything is going for Djokovic. And yet he has been pushed to the second seed. So I do think there is some bias against Djokovic.
Right. As you mentioned, I think what a great achievement that would be. He's going for his 5th in a row. 5th Wimbledon in a row. It's crazy, right? Yeah. And just after winning his 23rd Grand Slam, this is 24th, which is obviously 2 above Nadal and maybe 3 above Federer, but 24 is such a big number.
Yeah.
8th Wimbledon.
Yes. Even there, he would be equaling Roger's record of 8 Wimbledons.
Yeah.
And 5 in a row also, he'll be equaling Federer and Borg. The two men club. He'll be joining the 2 men club. Looking
back, it's like in the last 10 years, Djokovic has pretty much achieved everything so fast. Kind of under the radar. That might be controversial to say, but kind of under the radar, he has really pushed or dethroned Nadal and Federer in a flash, isn't it?
Yeah, right under everybody's noses. Nobody was actually talking about Djokovic reaching this level. I very well remember in 2011 when he had the best season of his life. So we were talking about how Djokovic is, giving a tough fight to Roger and Rafa. But when he started off 2011, he only had 1 Grand Slam.
Right.
And we are in 2023 and he's sitting at 23. He has won 22 Grand Slams in the past 11, 12 years. That's
Yeah.
almost 2 Grand Slams a year, man. That's crazy.
Right, and now that it includes even French Open, despite poor form and all the COVID controversies, he's now, people are saying he might go to 25, 26, 28 maybe.
Yeah, and he is undefeated at Grand Slams since the last Wimbledon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Cool. So the last point is, yeah, prediction time. So I don't think we can really arrive at a specific name, but how this will play out. What do you think?
Well, when we predicted Djokovic will win the French Open, that was an off prediction. That was a rare prediction, or I should rather say, because everybody was talking about Alcaraz being the favorite. But now, if I say Djokovic, then I think it will be a very obvious thing to say. That being said, I have my own point of view, and I really do think that Djokovic, with everything that he's been going on with, we can see that his speed and power has dipped slightly after the injuries and everything. So, although he is a favorite, I think he will struggle in the first week.
Exactly my point. I was about to say that if he makes to week 2, then obviously he becomes a favorite. In first week, it might be dicey, might be a scare here and there.
Yes. I feel that as well, that the first week could be a bit challenging for Djokovic.
Yeah, but Queens was fast, right? Even though, even through that, Alcaraz managed to win. So that was a good comeback, and just the tournament he played, he won that tournament. So on Alcaraz's part, that was a fantastic performance.
I'll give you an interesting anecdote. It is not related, but in 2003, when Federer won his first Wimbledon, Andy Roddick was the Queen's champion. And because he had won the Queens, it is sort of a known thing that the one who wins Queens is a favorite at Wimbledon. So because he had won the Queens and he was a big server, so he was considered the favorite. But we all know that that is not what happened. We had Federer who absolutely demolished Roddick. So although what you said, I agree with that, but we should also take into factor these kind of things.
Is it like in football, if you have to relate, is it like winning the Community Shield and winning the Premier League are very different things? And there is some kind of, a stat or jinx involved in doing that?
Well, I really don't know, because in football they say that it is jinxed. The Community Shield is jinxed.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not so sure about that at Queens. But we do know that Federer didn't play Queens. He used to play Halle.
Yeah. Cool. So again, finally, we will be excited to watch Federer as well, as a fan this time, and not in any other role which was speculated. So much fun, so much cameras will be on him as well.
I would love to see him make his Rockstar entry once again, the one he did last year.
Fantastic. So let's hope that we enjoy the next couple of weeks. Anyway, it's raining a lot outside in my city, so less of tennis and more of Wimbledon for me.